Dr. Alan Maryon-Davis, who is a professor of public health at King's College. He joins me from Salisbury in the UK. Dr. Maryon-Davis, great to have you on the program. As I mentioned, the phase one trial by Moderna shows early promise. Talk to us about what happens during phase one and how encouraging is this?
Well, it's very encouraging. I mean, the phase one essentially is the stage in developing a vaccine where it starts moving into human volunteers, and really it's all about testing for safety. That's the main purpose of phase one. Normally it involves anything between 10 and 50 patients, and it normally would go on for about 2 years in the normal course of events. But of course, everything is being rushed through as quickly as possible, and the telescope to try and get a vaccine as fast as possible. But in phase one, that's what you're really looking for. Is looking for safety, to see whether it's whether the carrying medium is safe, to see whether people have allergic reactions, and to see whether there are any bad responses to the vaccine. And then you move if that is satisfactory, and of course that of course follows all the animal work. So we're talking about humans here. If that is satisfactory, then you move into phase two, which involves hundreds of people, and where you're looking to see whether or not antibodies really are produced in the sort of bulk you need them. And that precedes phase three, which is when you go to thousands of people, and you then really develop the vaccine up to scale it up so that it can be produced in large numbers.
Meanwhile, the vaccine candidate being tested at Oxford did not provide what scientists called gold standard protection when tested on monkeys. What does that mean? And does that mean that this trial is over? Where do researchers go from here?
Well, it's perhaps too early to come to a conclusion about that. I mean, the work in monkeys, monkeys are very like humans in many ways, but not the same as humans. So really that has to be tested in humans to be sure. What you're looking for is to see whether the body's immune system responds to the vaccine by producing these so-called neutralizing antibodies. And the hope is that if you develop enough antibodies of the right sort, and they're similar to the sorts of antibodies you would develop if you had the disease itself, then the next hope is that then provides protection against further challenges with the virus. So that's what the whole idea of the vaccination is. And we haven't really made those links yet in humans. And that's the whole purpose, really, of moving into phase two, is to assess how well humans react to the vaccine, how well they produce the neutralizing antibodies, and whether those neutralizing antibodies actually provide protection against further infection.
You mentioned that these vaccine trials are being sped up to try to get a vaccine out to the public as quickly as possible. Of course, these aren't the only vaccine trials underway. There are many of them around the world. Given the results of Moderna and Oxford's trials, how optimistic are you that a vaccine will actually be found?
Well, there are something like, I think at the latest count, something like 130 different groups of scientists working on this around the world. That's a massive effort, a huge amount of brain power and laboratory power being put into this. And the chances are that some of those, at least, will be looking promising. I mean, the WHO, the World Health Organization at the moment, is favoring about 10 groups in particular as being the most likely ones to come up with something. We've heard about a couple of them just recently, but there are others working in this field, and I feel very confident that somebody somewhere is going to come up with a vaccine which produces enough antibodies, and those antibodies give enough protection, and that the whole thing can then be scaled up. The other way of telescoping this whole process, and I know that the Oxford group are doing that, is by working in conjunction with the commercial pharmaceutical companies, so that the scaling up process is happening in parallel with the development of the vaccine. And that helps to sort of shorten the whole process. And the hope is that we can find a useful vaccine that can be scaled up quickly. And then there's the whole business of getting all the regulatory stuff in place, all the legalities of all it, and then the distribution. And the big question, of course, is making sure it is available on an equitable basis, so it's fair, and even countries with poor health systems and not much income can afford to provide the vaccine for their people, because this is a global problem and has to have a global solution. We mustn't have wealthy, greedy countries grabbing all the vaccine for themselves and not distributing it fairly amongst the people of the world.
Yeah, certainly the distribution is going to be really important. It sounds like there's quite a long way to go. Dr. Maryon-Davis, thank you so much.